Hello and good morning. Welcome back to another podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. It's breakfast club time. The deadline isn't in half an hour. It's later in the day, but that does give you a bit more time to kind of digest decisions and that. And hopefully we're here to help with that a little bit. And I'm joined by Gianni. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really well. Yeah, it's a funny one this week, isn't it? With such a delayed deadline. Have we ever had a Saturday 4:30 deadline? I don't think we have we?
No, I think obviously we have some 2 p.m. ones sometimes for the 3 p.m. games, but yeah, half four it seems a bit weird. I mean, this whole period has been weird, hasn't it? So yeah, how are you feeling like? Because there's only game weeks to go. So there's not too much time to gain any rank now. I mean, I must admit, I'm pretty relaxed, but that's only because I've had two okay weeks. So I feel like that's put me in a good mindset. How are you feeling about it?
I've had two dreadful weeks. I looked. I'm at the same rank now as where I was as we came out of lockdown, sort of approaching game week 31 plus. And in that time, I shortened it. I halved it. I was around the top 10k, and now I'm back out to 30k, which is where I was at lockdown. Disappointed.
Yeah, I can feel that. I mean, it's a little bit different for me. My rank was so bad that I only needed a couple of like kind of good weeks to go up in rank. So it's been a bit easier. I think I started lockdown or after lockdown on 328k, so I'm 148k now. So I actually got a green arrow this week, mostly because of Antonio on the last day. Those 7 points, I think, gave me like nearly a 20k rank jump, which just shows you how tight it is. But yeah, we're going to do things a little bit different this morning. So usually we do the team reveals and then go through kind of all the last minute decisions, but we're going to do it the opposite. So we're going to go through the kind of questions and stuff that people put to us on Twitter yesterday, and then do kind of team reveals, transfers, captaincy, and that kind of thing at the end. And as Gianni is a Chelsea fan, we're going to start off with what to do with Chelsea players. So lots of people still own players from last week. Obviously, Norwich, it was an okay game. I feel like Chelsea could have done more, but what they controlled the game 1-0. They got the 3 points. That's all they needed from a non FPL point of view. What's your kind of thinking with Chelsea players this week? Should people keep them? Should people play them against Liverpool? How do you see that game going?
Yeah, Andy, firstly, thanks for introducing me as a Chelsea fan. I'm going to get enough hate for being the newbie on this channel already. And now you're saying I'm a Chelsea fan. Yeah, for my sins. Against Norwich, they were, to be fair, you can only play what's in front of you. So I saw them getting a lot of kind of stick for only putting one past Norwich when everyone else is putting three or four against them. But actually, you can only play what's in front of you. We kept a clean sheet. That's for once, right? We looked fairly settled. Norwich, of course, didn't like scoring. They don't look like scoring against anyone. But, there's a couple of explosive assets in that Chelsea team. On another day, Giroud and Pulisic could have had double-digit hauls against Norwich. And I think for the season remainder, those are the two we should be looking at. I've got Pulisic in my team, and obviously the Liverpool fixture looks tricky on paper. And with Liverpool lifting the title, you're like, this is the fixture you don't want to play Liverpool, the day they're actually going to celebrate being champions with that trophy lift. So I'm disappointed that that's how the fixtures have fallen. But saying that, Liverpool making mistakes at the back. We're seeing Alisson making mistakes, Van Dijk making mistakes. These guys never do, right? So I'm happy keeping my Chelsea asset in Pulisic. I wouldn't be selling if you own a Giroud or a Pulisic or even a Willian. However, I wouldn't be bringing one in. That last day against Wolves is going to be an interesting fixture, isn't it? I'll be looking to ride the wave with the Chelsea assets for that Wolves fixture, knowing that they were probably going to need a victory to. A victory might not even get them top four. That's what's quite disappointing because if they lose to Liverpool. But yeah, Pulisic is going to be an absolute FPL baller next season. I mean, he's starting to show signs of looking like a Hazard already. He looks brilliant. He's always involved. He's the one we're going to be drawn to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Liverpool game is going to be like, how do you think they're going to set up? Because by the time that game happens, they could be in fifth place. If Man United and Leicester win, Chelsea will be out of the top four for the first time in at least a few game weeks anyway. So do you think that's going to play on their mind? Do you think they're going to try not to lose or just go for it? Because like you said, Liverpool have made some mistakes and they do have kind of pace in Willian and Pulisic that can cause teams problems. So do you think they're going to go for it or maybe sit back and see what happens?
In days gone by, when we had Conte as a manager, when we had Mourinho as a manager, we'd be able to go to Anfield and go to not lose, maybe nick a 1-0 victory, but play effectively for the draw. Under Frank, that's just not possible at the moment. He's not got that in his locker, and I really like Lampard. But he will only know to play to win, and he hasn't got the defence there to be able to play for that draw or that kind of go with a very defensive mindset. So I think he'll play for victory. Remember, just before lockdown, days before, I think it was the FA Cup quarter final. Chelsea beat Liverpool, and yeah, some might say Liverpool had their reserves out, but really, I think Mane started, Salah came on, Fabinho started in the middle. I think Van Dijk played. There was only a few missing, and Gilmore, I don't know if you remember this, absolutely dominated Fabinho in the middle of the park. Obviously, Gilmore's not going to be playing out for the season, but yeah, I think Chelsea will remember that fixture and think, we can do Liverpool here on their day. Chelsea can beat anyone. I genuinely do believe that.
Yeah, I think someone just said in the chat actually a draw might be enough for Chelsea. So I don't know. They could set up tight. I mean, personally, as a non-fan, I don't really have. If I had a Chelsea defender, for example, there's no way I'd want to play him this week. I just think Liverpool definitely score. I think Liverpool have been unlucky not to score more in the last couple of game weeks. So I think if you've got a Liverpool player, it's looking good. Plus, they get the rest. There's no FA Cup either, so they got a 7-day rest. Whereas what do you think about the Chelsea Man United game? Are you expecting full strength? At least the main players like Giroud and Pulisic, surely they're going to start the FA Cup and in the league.
Yeah, the fixtures have fallen well for Chelsea leading into the FA Cup. Remember, they played on Tuesday night, I think it was, and so they've had sort of 4 or 5 days rest. United would have only had a couple of days rest, so there needs to be slightly less rotation. I feel. Um, and yeah, I look at Liverpool and think they are due some goals. Salah's been missing big chances. I'm a Salah owner, so that's that, and I'm a Trent owner, and of course I'm starting both of these guys against Chelsea in what is a really important game. But those guys are due points. Trent's due some attacking returns, and Mo has been really disappointing in the last few weeks. But Salah is only 4 goals off the Golden Boot, and I say only 4. That's obviously a big margin. I think he's on 19 and Vardy's on 23. But Salah being Salah, he will believe that is still in touch. He's got Newcastle on the final day. He scores against Chelsea. Anything can happen against Newcastle on the final day. The guy is so greedy, you just wouldn't put it past him to score against Chelsea.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We're going to talk about Salah a little bit more actually in a minute when we get on to talking about triple captaincy. Some people still holding their triple captainship and wanting us to talk about that. Before we do that though, let's move off Chelsea. I mean, I basically agree. I think if you've only got one free transfer, it's not worth getting rid of like Pulisic and the likes of that. If I had Alonso and players like that, I wouldn't be against playing them, but wouldn't be my ideal player this week. But Burnley, I mean, it all seems to be revolving around Chris Wood at the moment. I can't go anywhere without seeing Chris Wood's name mentioned. I mean, obviously he's not a Mo Salah, he's not a Pulisic. We're not expecting massive returns. But do you think he's an okay option for the last couple of game weeks?
He's a really good option, isn't he? I was surprised to see that penalty he scored the other day. Brilliant penalty, by the way. That's his first penalty I think he's taken for Burnley. But yeah, I mean, he's back to full fitness now. He played 90 in the week, and that's the first time I think he's played 90 since the restart. So he's sort of been eased back into the team. His minutes have been managed, and he potentially is going to be peaking at that match fitness, ready for the Norwich fixture. Saying that, Norwich were better than they have been against Chelsea. It is the last game at Carrow Road. Now, I'm not saying Norwich are going to go and get a result. I don't think they will, but I think we will get a performance by Norwich. So I would forget about the sort of 4-5-0 victory that many think Burnley could get. I can't see that. I do think when Burnley score, inevitably, I'm sure they will, Wood's going to be close because we know how Burnley play. We know how the team is set up, and it's set up for Wood to score the goals and the team to, get lots of crosses in. McNeil could be a bit of a differential shout. So yeah, I see the love for Wood. If I could make that easy transfer, I probably would make it. I wouldn't be taking a 4-point hit for Wood, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Unless there's like another big move you have to or want to do, then yeah, it seems a bit crazy to do a -4 for Wood. Like he did get a penalty. It's not like Burnley get many penalties, although Norwich have conceded the second most this season. Leicester have conceded 10, would you believe? And then Arsenal, Norwich, Spurs, Watford, all on 7. So you never know. But one thing to take into account, I kind of like trying to. I don't know, I feel like he's being bigged up so much. People's expectations are a bit too big with Chris Wood. Like he can obviously score against Norwich, but I don't know. Apart from the 5-0 loss to Man City, they've literally scored 1 goal in each of their last 6 games. Now, Chris Wood being in the team for a lot of that for 90 minutes might have helped, but they've not exactly been free scoring. So for me, like again, if you've got I've got 2 free transfers, so I might bring him in. I already own Danny Ings as well. I think if it was a toss up between Wood and Ings still, I still think I would go Ings. Would you? Is there any way you would go Wood over Ings?
You know what? I would definitely go Ings over Wood until last night, seeing that the result was quite good for Bournemouth. If there had been a draw last night between West Ham and Watford, both Bournemouth and Villa would have looked at that and thought we're pretty much down. But Bournemouth will now think Watford are in sight. Watford have got two really tough fixtures, remember, City and Arsenal, which makes Bournemouth's fixture against Southampton, which of course features Danny Ings, a little bit more tricky for Southampton. Bournemouth are at home. They've got so much to play for. Ings, however, of course, has been on fire, and I'd still probably just veer Ings over Wood. Of course, there's quite a bit price difference there, over $1 million, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Did Ings hit the? I think Ings hit the post in the week as well as scoring, didn't he, Andy? Yeah, and he was really involved.
Yeah, I think Che Adams had the follow up and he missed, but it should have been in, and that would have been an assist. And then suddenly it's double returns for Ings again. So yeah, I mean, I really like Ings. I know it's interesting actually. What do you make of like relegation teams like Villa, like Bournemouth, where it's not done and dusted? They still have a chance, but at some point they're going to have to try and win a game. Now, I'm not saying they're not trying to do that now, but what I mean by that is, do you think at some point they're going to come out and attack, and that's going to be a problem, or are they just going to set up not to lose and maybe try and nick a 1-0 like you mentioned for other teams as well?
Yeah, the problem is the fixtures. Watford can't take that latter approach of setting up not to lose when they're playing City, because you just can't play that against City. And then they got Arsenal on the final day. So for Watford, it's really, really difficult to try and pinch the sort of 1-0 or keep it tight, because obviously they will. Because if you go and play football against these teams, you're going to just be run off the park. But saying that, you can't keep the likes of City and Arsenal out easily. Villa's fixtures are slightly easier. They've got Arsenal, but Villa at home. And then on the last day, Villa have got that fixture against West Ham, who will be safe. So I could see Villa putting in a performance or two, but with Bournemouth, I feel like with Watford, I feel like they're really going to struggle. But of course, they're 3 points higher, so they might just scrape it. It's so tight, isn't it? It's great that it's going down to the final day, though. The drama is brilliant, isn't it? It does make you look at their FPL assets, though. Bournemouth, Villa, Watford. It's just safer to steer clear altogether. Sometimes with relegation battles, we kind of identify a potential hero and go, let's put it on him, as I guess you did, Andy, with Antonio. But with those three teams, I'd veer away. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. The thing with Antonio is he wasn't. See, I quite like going for players that got something to play for, like relegation threatened teams, but they need to also be showing some form, and preferably the player you're bringing in should also be in form. And Antonio kind of had everything. He was in a team that was fighting for their lives. He had he's statistically wise, he's the best player in the league since restart. Form and fixtures, like he had everything. So he was kind of like not an easy buy, but that's kind of why I went for him. Whereas if I'm going for like a Stanislas or a Wilson, not really seeing much from them all season, to be fair, not just recently, pretty much all season, with two tough fixtures. Same with Watford. Like, Troy Deeney can make an argument for him. He's on penalties and stuff, but who's going at it? Jesus, Ings, Vardy, Kane. Like, there's so many strikers. I'd rather have Chris Wood than Deeney right now, for example. So, yeah, for me, there's just not enough there. If they were showing some form and it was like momentum, they were about to get out of the relegation, but I don't think it's like that. I think it's going to be kind of tooth and nail, like going for it, and they're just so hard to predict. I'm not against it as a punt, but that is all it is a massive punt. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I won't be going anywhere near him. I think 2 game weeks left. A punt. My rank's not that bad, where I'm starting to consider Bournemouth punts. I think so. Yeah, I will steer clear. Talking about trying to get big green arrows, triple captaincy. So some people still have it left. So obviously there's only 2 weeks to use it. Now, first question is going to be who are the best players to use it on the next 2 weeks if people still have it. And secondly, I know some people have their triple captain and their free hit. And in most of those occasions where I've seen people saying that, they're using the free hit in 38, so they have to use the triple captain this week. So who's the best if you can use it over both weeks? And if you had to use it this week, who would you be sticking on, do you think?
Yeah, fair play if you've managed to sit on those chips so long. Obviously, we target the doubles, many of us, but the winner from a few years back, Yusuf Sheikh, he actually I think he used his triple captaincy on the last day on Salah versus Brighton, and it worked really well for him. So yeah, fingers crossed that works for you guys that have left it. I'd say the best triple captain shout is waiting for 38 if you can, and it should be on a Man City player against Norwich at the Etihad. Man City, remember, if they win their semi-final, the FA Cup final will be 6 days later from that fixture. And then 6 days after that, I think it is, or it's the Champions League against Man City, against Real Madrid. So they're going to, I think against Norwich, they will potentially put out a full string 11 so that ready for the two big games, the FA Cup final for the Champions League against Real Madrid. And because of that, I would look at the likes of Sterling and think, wow, the explosive potential there. But I would also look at and see who gets the minutes against Watford. So in game week 37, look who has come off early and got a rest, or who has missed out completely, knowing that they're then probably going to start against Norwich. And you look at KDB, Sterling, Jesus, one of those three should get the armband for me as your triple captain. Because you look at, maybe Liverpool assets and Mo Salah against Newcastle, but for me, it's the safe bet is on City against Norwich. Again, you could target United over maybe the West Ham fixture in 37, but again, I think United are slowing down a little bit, too many games. So yeah, stick with City. If you're using your free hit in 38, probably a wise decision using it in 38, not 37. And your captaincy is on this game week, well, that is such a tough shout. I'm having issues picking a captain already for 37, and I've not got that triple captain armband. Again, I do like the City fixture. KDB has had his rest, guys. Okay, so yes, he will start in the FA Cup, but I think he will also start against Watford because, of course, 3 days ago he sat out completely. So KDB is probably the safest bet for Man City against Watford. Sterling, you wouldn't be surprised to see his minutes managed a little bit, although again, he should be starting too. So I'd probably be looking at KDB and Sterling. If not, it's Bruno and Martial against West Ham. West Ham, remember, are pretty much safe. And because of that, they might take their foot off the gas. If West Ham had lost or drawn last night, I'd steer away from that United fixture. But now they're safe, I feel like that will play into United's hands. Yeah. What do you reckon, Andy? As a United fan, you must have been pleased with that result last night.
Yeah, definitely. I think it will make things a little bit easier. Obviously, it's David Moyes versus old club. He'd probably want to. I'm sure he'd want to stick one over on us after not being at Old Trafford for that long himself. But it's the players' mentality. Like if they, I don't know if it's not mathematically safe. I think that's a bit different. I know the players are gonna inside. They're gonna know they're basically safe at this point. I think it's just goal difference is the only thing they could now lose it on. I think they're not mathematically safe, are they?
No, I think goal difference is. Yeah. You're right. It's the goal difference thing.
But I don't think that's going to be an issue. So they're going to know. They're going to know they're staying up. So whether that will play on their minds, I don't know. The thing for me, and obviously it's very difficult for this week because we're not going to get to see the FA Cup before we have to make these decisions. Is I think, and maybe it's just I don't know, not wishful thinking, but I just think Man United have to rest some players, and I think it's going to be against Chelsea in the FA Cup because look, Solskjaer's of course going to want to win a trophy. I think it'd be really good for him, really good for the club, even if it is the FA Cup when everyone wants the Champions League and League. But top four is huge, as we all know and we've talked about for weeks. So I think Greenwood out for Daniel James is probably going to happen in the FA Cup. We may see a Gallo start instead of Martial potentially. I don't think they're all going to get. I don't think the front 4 and 5 are all going to get rested, but for sure I think like McTominay, Fred, plus one of Fernandes or Pogba, for example. So I do think we're going to see some rest, which will help for that West Ham game. And because of top 4, I don't think we're going to see minutes managed that much. So to answer the kind of triple captaincy question, I do agree that a lot of people, and to be honest, I'm doing it myself, we're overlooking that Watford fixture because we're worried about who's going to start. But it could be huge. In the reverse fixture, it was 8-0. West Ham just scored 3 against them last night. And if that was a different team like City or like Liverpool, they would have gone on and scored 4 or 5, I'd say. Ben Foster has just been an awful form, as anyone like me and you know, as Ben Foster owners. He's just been really poor, just not keeping clean sheets at all. So I think Man City for sure. I agree on De Bruyne. It'd be really strange for him to get another full rest. Like, I feel like minimum is 60 minutes. The only problem is, of course, FA Cup. What if they play 120 minutes extra time? Does that change things then? We're not going to know. So I think Man City have got huge upside if you get the right player. Otherwise, I still really like Man United. And I'll tell you who I think is a shrewd captaincy this week. And it's not really completely out of the box thinking after he did so well last week. But Rashford, if you go and look at the stats now since restart, Rashford has overtaken everyone else. So a few weeks ago, he's being transferred out for Greenwood by everyone. But now, when you look at kind of expected stats and stuff like that, he's top. He's ahead of Bruno. He's ahead of Martial as well. And he's looked really sharp. And one thing which I probably overlooked is he did come back from injury. when he played Spurs and stuff. That was kind of his first game for a long time. I know everyone was out, but he was coming back from injury, and it feels now like he's suddenly getting back up to match fitness, and he does look sharp. Him and Martial, really dangerous. So I like him this week. I like Martial, Fernandes, and Rashford this week, to be honest. But in 38, I do. I mean, look, I can't sit here and argue that Man City is not a great fixture against Norwich, of course, and we're probably going to get team news, which is really going to help those with chips. But I do like Salah and Mane the last game week because I think everyone's going to be drawn to Man, especially if you've got some rank to gain. Everyone's going to be drawn to Man City players as they should be. And Mane, who's already owned by less than 6% in the top 10k, is playing a Newcastle side who, again, if you're into your stats, they are the worst side since restart statistically. Like they've got all these injuries, they've hardly got a defence they can put together. So I think Liverpool on the last day of the season could be big as well. So I'm not trying to argue against Man City because obviously it's Norwich at home, but I think an outside. I mean, I can't call it a punt, of course, it's Liverpool, but you know what I mean. Like I think people are going to be drawn to that City fixture, so that could be huge. So I like City this week if you're willing to risk Pep roulette. Otherwise, I think Man United this week. And next week, same. Pep for sure, Man City. But if you want to go someone different, I think Liverpool. I think Man United, if you're going to put it on them, it has to be this week. Because that Leicester game could be for top four. And that is not a team. That is not a fixture I'd want to put my captain, I think. Because that could be really tight if they're worried about kind of losing and stuff. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. I mean, we'll quickly touch on Man City because we've already kind of mentioned them anyway. Obviously, we don't know who's going to line up. We don't know how many minutes are going to happen in the FA Cup. But if you only had two Man City players, for example, this week, would you be looking to bring them in or would you just wait for 38 and try and then get an idea of the minutes and stuff?
I'd probably wait to 38 so I can look at that Watford game and go, who's going to miss out, who's going to play. Many of us, yes, Pep is the hardest manager to second guess, but there are a few players where you're 99% right if you really dig deep. So, for example, Phil Foden, right? Since the restart in the Premier League, he has gone start, bench, start, bench, start, bench, and so on. Literally like clockwork. That is the routine Pep has been doing with Foden, not with everyone, with Foden. So Foden started 3 days ago, he played 90. That means he's not going to play in the FA Cup semi-final. I might be wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be. That then means he starts against Watford, for example. So that's one Man City asset we can safely say, I think, you're guaranteed to start against Watford. Obviously, there's a few others. You look at KDB, who's had his rest. I'm pretty sure he starts against Watford. He'll probably have his minutes managed and get 60, sure. David Silva, okay, he's surely a shoe-in to play against Norwich on the last day, but also a good chance he'll play against Watford. So there's a few. But again, if you want to be 100%, you probably wait and see, don't you? You probably go, okay, I'm going to look at Watford, save my transfer, and then for Norwich, go make sure I've got the triple up for Norwich. I think having the triple up is really important. I can see on the chat there's a few people that think maybe Foden's not the best shout, but if he's playing in a front three, then he really is a good shout because of his price, because of the fact City always score so many goals against Watford. Yes, the reverse fixture, but the last two games, 6-0 and 8-0. What's there not to like about Man City, the most explosive team in the Premier League, with a £5.6 million midfielder playing in a front three? He's going to be in amongst the goals. He's been missing some big chances. Yeah, the points haven't been coming, but I really like Foden. And I really think he could be a good shout for the Watford fixture. Probably not Norwich. He'll probably come out for that Norwich game. And then I'll make the switch from Foden to David Silva, for example, for that game week 38. That's my plan.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. The interesting thing with what you said is you're expecting Foden to miss the FA Cup. Completely agree. He's been playing in the front three, not in the three behind. So would have to be Sterling or Mahrez to miss out. And that feels like absolutely no way that's going to happen. Maybe Bernardo Silva will play on one of the wings, but either way, I'm not expecting Foden to line up against Arsenal. So if that does happen, he plays the next game in the front three. That would mean that one of Mahrez or Sterling is then benched for Watford. If
or
that
Jesus.
Continues. Potentially,
or Jesus, because we saw in the last time out against Bournemouth, Sterling came on at half time. For that 45 minutes, Sterling played as the number 9, Jesus on the left. So he's trialling something because he's not done that since the restart, which made me think maybe either in the FA Cup or against Watford, he goes Sterling down the middle. He goes Foden one side, potentially Mahrez or Jesus the other. But yeah, you're right. It does mean one of them drops out. And that's why I'm saying I just feel like Foden is the only shoe-in for that Watford fixture because, Mahrez, Sterling or Jesus, one of them I think will drop out because there's just not the space. He's not playing Foden yet in that midfield three. He's playing him in the front three. Next season, when David Silva's gone, Foden will be getting more game time in the midfield three. I'm sure that's where his long-term position will be. But for the time being, he's front three, isn't he?
Yeah, the Jesus thing's interesting because I feel like I know Pep can play false nine, but I feel like this talked about a lot, but it doesn't actually happen that often. But I am really hoping as a Jesus owner that it happens against Arsenal in the FA Cup because that would be amazing to get 60 and 60 for him against Watford and Norwich. But it's clutching at straws, and so I agree. I personally wouldn't be moving around my Man City players too much. I just think there's too much unknown. The problem is it's such a huge fixture. It could be so many points. I can see why people would think about doing it. So if you're a risk taker, maybe go for it. But for me, I've got Mahrez, Jesus and De Bruyne. I'm just going to keep them, see what happens against Watford, and then make my decisions. Obviously, David Silva, you've mentioned, could be a good option. And just to really quickly touch on Foden as well, I feel like it's a bit like Greenwood. Suddenly you've got this really young player who's cheap, coming to the side, done well, and then FPL managers have got these huge expectations about what they're going to do. And fair enough, to be honest, because they've both got double-digit hauls since the restart. I just think for Foden, I remember when we were doing match day on Wednesday, there was a chance where he turned back inside with his left foot, and then I think he took the shot with his right, and he just hit it straight into the chest of the goalkeeper. And I just feel like in a few more years, when he's played a bit more, like he would finish that like a Sterling or someone, and he would keep it on the ground. Keeper would have no chance of getting it. When you hit it straight at the keeper, chest height, when the keeper's already kind of bending down, it's an easy save. So he didn't have very long to think about it, but I just think in a few years, when he's kind of developed even more as a player, and obviously he looks great as it is, those kind of shots will be going in. So he has got chances. He has created chances. I wouldn't be personally looking to move him on this week, but I would definitely keep an eye, like you say, like getting those the knowledge from the Watford game ahead of Norwich is going to be huge. So yeah, that's what I would do. All right, cool. That's all the kind of topics we're going to discuss. So let's move on to the old team reveals, and we will do the goals imminent table. I know everyone likes to see that. We'll do that at the end. So I'm going to bring your team up first. So talking about how big that Watford fixture is, you've currently got your captain on, Kevin De Bruyne. Do you think that's going to stick?
I'm so torn, Andy. It's between KDB and Bruno, of course. Bruno is the consistent, sort of steady bet. Last night it was on KDB, but then with the West Ham result, as I've said, that kind of plays into the favour of a United asset now, purely because West Ham now don't have as much to play for. United concern me a tiny bit because against Crystal Palace, I started to see them flagging a bit. They weren't their explosive self till really the end of the game when the game was sort of won. There's surely going to be a drop in performance because of energy levels, unless Ollie rotates tomorrow against Chelsea in the FA Cup, which I think you're right, Andy, he probably will. So then I like KDB against Watford. They'll probably only get 60 minutes, though. That's the concern. But then again, if United are winning against West Ham, Bruno's coming off early because, and probably Martial's coming off early because they got Leicester 4 days later and they'd have both played so many games in so many days. So that's what made me think for the differential shout. Foden, I think, gets the most minutes of all those players, but surely I can't go to Foden because he's just not been doing it. So it's a really, really tough one. I'm not going Salah because it's against my team, Chelsea. So yeah, it's going to be KDB or Bruno. I'm still undecided. I think I'm still veering towards KDB because when we look at history, Watford, City's favourite team to play against is Watford, and it's the same Watford players that they've beaten 8-0, same Watford players they've beaten 6-0. The FA Cup final in 2017, I think there was another 6 or 7-0 in there. They always smash Watford to pieces, and I think they'll do so again. Watford looked terrible last night. So I really like that fixture. Obviously, City are away from home. I'd prefer it to be a home fixture, but captaincy has been the hardest decision I can remember actually this game week. I mean, for you, Andy, I know you've gone sort of for a Man City asset, but a United asset, but I've really struggled this week. It's harder than ever.
Well, you're making me rethink now. I basically put it on. I've got it on Martial as it stands. I'll bring my team up quickly now. I've got it on Martial pretty much because I think him, Fernandes, and Rashford are all really good options. And Martial is just lower owned than Fernandes. I'm pretty sure when we see the kind of captaincy figures once the deadline's gone, the Fernandes is going to be more captain than Martial because more people own him. Makes sense. So I've gone for the lower owned of the two, just because if he does outscore him again, that's better for my rank. Simply, that's the only reason I've put it on him. But you've got me wondering now, because you're right. If it is a really good game for United and they're ahead, then they are going to get brought off early. So it's no different to Man City, really. And that Watford game, like Ben Foster, is not saving anything right now. So yeah, you got me thinking. I'm probably going to keep it on Man United. I think Martial at home has been insane. I don't know if I can just bring up his stats or his points now. It's just some huge scores. So last home game was 13. The one before that was 14. The one before that was 21, and that's since restart. And even the one before that was against Man City, and that was 8. And it was 8 against Watford, the one before that. So he hasn't blanked at home for about 5 or 6 fixtures. Now, I'm not necessarily big on the whole home and away thing because I just think that can happen, and then he'll go away and absolutely bang as well. But that's why I'm doing it, because I'm just not sure about that Man City game. But I do kind of agree with De Bruyne. It'd be really weird unless he plays 120 minutes to see him rested again, because he only played 63 in the game before that. And then he got a full rest. Like, how much rest does Kevin De Bruyne need? Not that much. But Man City, very little to play for. So he definitely plays one of Watford or Norwich, because Pep's going to want to keep that rhythm up. But yeah, I'm probably going to stick.
If both FA Cup semis, Andy, go, which FA Cup semi can you see going 120 minutes more? The United game, right? City Arsenal is unlikely to go 120, I think. But you could really see Chelsea United going the distance, couldn't you?
Yeah, if I had to put money on it, that's the one I would say. Although I think, have we not beaten you 3 times already this year? I think that's right. So maybe Solskjaer's got one over Lampard.
It's a weird one, because in all 3 of those games, I genuinely, this isn't the Chelsea bias talking. I know there's going to be loads of United fans listening going, what is he on about? But I genuinely think Chelsea have been the better team in all 3 of those fixtures. But it's what United are really good at is when they're 1-0 up, they're kind of that. They got you by the throat, and then they just score goals for fun, because the counter-attack earlier in the season especially really played into their hands. And Chelsea, naive under Frank, were just like, yeah, we're going to go at them and leave loads of space in behind. Well, that's not how to play against Ollie's United. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I remember the first. I can't remember the last 2 games, to be honest, but I know the first game of the season was 4-0. And yeah, like Chelsea were all over us. Literally every shot we had went in, and Chelsea had so many that hit the bar twice, I think. So yeah, it was a little bit unlucky, but obviously, happy with the results. So maybe that kind of psychological edge will be there for Solskjaer. But yeah, long story short on that, I think Man City versus Arsenal is interesting, because obviously it's Arteta versus Pep. So Arteta's going to have a good insight into the mind of Pep, and maybe that will help. But then it's still Man City versus Arsenal, and Arsenal is still a long way off being like Pep Guardiola's Man City. So yeah, I agree. I think that could happen. Just really quickly going back to your team, are you making any transfers this week?
Yeah, so the one move I was looking at is, you can see there's the elephant in the room on my bench is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and he's been on my bench since the restart, so it's not like he's wasted a valuable point and been blanking for me for every week. He's not simply just not featured. Saying that, 6.4 million is a lot on your bench, isn't it? You don't really want him, but every week I've had other fires to put out, so I've not been able to sell him. Now there's a very obvious move for Calvert-Lewin to Wood. I can't upgrade him to Ings. I've got money in the bank, but not enough. I'm about 0.4 short to go Calvert-Lewin to Ings. The problem is if I replace Calvert-Lewin's with a Wood, or even an Nketiah, by the way, who I think could be a great shout, because Lacazette will have started. If he starts today, Lacazette would have started 3 games in 6 days. There is no way Lacazette is starting on Tuesday night, I think it is. So I think Nketiah could be a wild card. So I was tempted to go Calvert-Lewin to Wood, Calvert-Lewin to Nketiah. But if I do that, who do I bench?
Yeah, exactly.
You're not benching Pulisic or Greenwood. They're probably the only 2 I'd consider. So I'd end up buying Wood or Nketiah, and that'd still be my first sub. I'm really not going to... It's really not. And it allows me then the 2 transfers for game week 38, where I can look at that City lineup and go, oh, Sterling starting, I might be able to sell Foden even for a Sterling and downgrade elsewhere. So I'm planning on going into that last fixture with 3 City players. And those 3 City players, will be 3 starters. So we'll see. Yeah, Lacazette might be on fire. I'm just reading the chat. Guys, Lacazette is not starting 4 games in, 8?
It would be surprising, wouldn't it?
I mean,
agree.
look, DM me if he is. You'll be like, that guy saying for sure like he is. I can't see it. And Nketiah's had a rest. Arteta likes Nketiah a lot. Look, we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree. You got me thinking though, because basically I've got Nketiah on the bench right now. I already have him, and I'm probably going to bench Antonio this week against Man United, which I know people will say is a bad idea. And to be honest, I can see him causing us some problems, whether they're safe or not. So I'm not oblivious to the fact that he could score against Man United, but I think I'm just going to take the risk against what has been one of the best defences since restart and just bench him. Now, I could just play Nketiah. The thing for me is I have money in the bank and I have 2 free transfers with really very little to do with them. So I could do Nketiah to Wood and then bench Antonio and roll the other transfer. The only reason I don't like that is because I'm thinking about how I can get Salah in the last game week. And De Bruyne to Salah is away. But if I get Chris Wood, then it blocks me from doing Antonio to David Silva. So I would only have 2 Man City players, which doesn't seem right for Norwich at home. So the other option is just to keep the money where it is, i.e. keeping Nketiah as the super cheap forward in a 3-5-2. And I actually have the money, would you believe it, to go Antonio to Son. Now Leicester at home is not usually a good fixture, and I know they've got a makeshift backline, but and obviously they play Sheffield United, who aren't really free scoring team. But I checked the stats, and Leicester haven't actually done that bad. Now I've not seen both those games in full, but yeah, they didn't seem to do that bad. But I think Spurs, if they're going to play Son and Kane up front again, could be a different option. So I could get Son in basically for free, and still roll the other transfer, and then then either Son has Crystal Palace on the last day. Or I can do De Bruyne and Son to Salah and David Silva for free. So,
Wow.
I might actually go Son, even though I don't actually think he's a great option. Just because I can do it, and there's not really if I look at my team, there's not really any other midfield punts. Not that are there's Trossard maybe against Newcastle, but there's not any huge punts I can really go for this week. I'm already locked into 3 Man City, so that's what I'm considering. I'm considering getting Son in. Because I could make a defender change, but I'm not interested in getting rid of Sice, Maguire and Trent when they're all playing at home.
I like that move, Andy. I've been doing the numbers on Son. We did a feature on him on the FPL show yesterday. Now Spurs have moved to a 4-4-2 in the last couple of games. Son's obviously playing up top with Kane. In terms of goal involvements this season, Son is on something like, this is Premier League goals and assists combined. Son is on something like 23, 24.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it?
Kane is on 15, 16, and Kane has had more minutes than Son, and he's on penalties. So for those that are looking at Kane for the last few weeks, it's like, well, Son massively has outperformed him, and he's cheaper. So yeah, it's not about, Spurs always do quite well against Palace, so that last day of the season would be a nice fixture for Son as well.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe. If I get him in, I would have 2 free transfers still for the last day, and if I really wanted to keep Son, I could. But if not, I've got that flexibility to. I've got loads. De Bruyne obviously is not that much cheaper than Salah anyway, so I wouldn't have to. The thing with getting Son is it locks all my money into that, so I would have to get rid of one of my midfielders to fund Salah. But that could just be Son, because he wasn't really a consideration until last night anyway. So I won't keep going on about it, but that's what I'm thinking. If I get Chris Wood, it just doesn't let me have Salah plus 3 Man City players without getting rid of Fernandes or Martial, which I'm not willing to do. And Antonio, I'm not really put off him because he has been so good, but I'm going to probably bench him against Man United anyway. And then it's Villa at home last day, which could be good. But if neither of teams have got anything to play for, you just don't know how those games are going to... they could just peter out and it'd be like a boring 1-1 or 0-0. So, anyway, that's my plans. I might bring Son in. After not mentioning him all week, I suddenly realised I had enough money to do it. It just means not getting Chris Wood, that's all. I kind of bigged him up so much, I feel like I should have to get him in. But I'll see what I'll do anyway.
If you did get if you got Chris Wood, it would be very hard leaving Antonio on your bench, wouldn't it?
No, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Yeah. Because Man United.
Okay, because it's United, yeah. There's 2 schools of thought with West Ham, isn't there? Now that's sort of safe. Do they go to Old Trafford and are they putting their feet up? Are they kind of on the beach? Or do they play with a bit more freedom and therefore, because the pressure's not on them, they go, we've got a free hit here. We're actually playing quite good football at the moment and we've got an opportunity to beat United in their own backyard. So it's really
here's what I would say if you're an Antonio owner is don't force yourself to bench him or get rid of him against United, because I don't think it's that. I think Crystal Palace, Southampton showed it, and Crystal Palace should have scored against us as well. So we are there for the taking. So Antonio could do well. He's the kind of player that will really cause Lindelof and Maguire problems. So I'm not really trying to force him out of my team. It's just that when I look at my team with 2 free transfers, don't forget that I can just do one and roll the other one. So I still got that luxury of 2 in the last game week, and I can make a big move. It's like Chris Wood against Norwich or Antonio against Man United, Son against Leicester or Antonio against Man United. I think most people, if they're not thinking about my team, would always choose the other 2 over Antonio for this week, no matter how good he's been. So that's my thinking basically, but. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm feeling quite good. 2 free transfers with nothing much to do at this stage of the season feels quite good. And I don't really have to move around my defence. And the thing is, the attackers, I've got most of the ones I want anyway. So I'd love Rashford, but I've got no way to bring him in. Not an easy way. Not without a hit. It's just not worth it. So, yeah, anyway.
There's one player we've both been pretty unlucky on, I feel. Yeah, we've got some okay returns, but we've both got Maguire. Now, Maguire, over the last 3-4 seasons, averages 5 goal involvements a season. He has had 1 so far in the Premier League this season at United, and that was a Bruno corner, I think, against Chelsea. And since Bruno came in the team, I was like, this is brilliant. Maguire's going to score loads of headers. He keeps winning them, and not putting him anywhere near the goal. Against Palace, he could have scored 1 or 2.
Yeah,
we are due a goal from 50p, Ed. I think I tweeted it the other day. So surely Maguire turns up and gets us an attack in return, finally, in the last 2 fixtures, because he's so dangerous at set pieces, isn't he?
The annoying thing about him, I mean, people know what my thoughts about Maguire. I mean, I'm so invested in this goal now. The thing about the Crystal Palace game is that first chance was probably the best one because he was unmarked and he just didn't see it coming. Yeah. But I'll give you, here's one thing which I'll end on. I'll tell you when his goal is coming. It's coming against Chelsea in the FA Cup, because I've just seen a stat. July 1st, someone tweeted Chelsea concede their 9th corner of the corner goal of the season from 109 corners faced. That's a conceded rate of 8.25%, which is quite high for corners. And then someone else subtweeted it and said it's Ted Nutson from Mixed Nuts or Statsbomb, sorry. Chelsea's men's team concede corner goals at a rate better than almost any team in the world scores them. So basically, Chelsea are awful at corners. If Harry Maguire is going to get a goal for the end of the season, it's going to come in the FA Cup, which is going to be great from a Man United fan point of view, but so frustrating from an FPL point of view. So there we go. I'll leave you on that. I'll leave it on that bombshell and say thanks very much, Gianni, for. I won't even give you a chance to reply to that. You just watch the Maguire goal and then tweet me when it happens. But thanks very much for joining me this morning.
No, thank you. It's been good coming on for my Breakfast Club debut. Obviously, I'm on the Scoutcast match day, guys. So if you are watching and fancy tuning into the match day, then we'll be on just ahead of 4 p.m. on that big Sunday. What an exciting Sunday we've got in 8 days' time.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely insane. It really is going to be chaotic. I should say, I know we've kind of gone on a bit longer than we do usually, but I've got to quickly mention the goals imminent table. I'll just read off the players on it. You can see them on screen. So Benteke, it's weird names on this, I'll be honest. Benteke, Dawson, Mahrez, Welbeck, Willian or Adams. So I fully agree. I think Mahrez has been unlucky not to score more. The other guys, I'm not sure if I would take punts on them, but you never know. But the reason I'm quickly ending on this is because if you want to go and check this out and all the other stats in the Fantasy Football Scout members area, there's currently a 3-day trial on. So if you go over to the site, you can give it a go for 3 days, see what you think, and obviously then if you want to keep it going, you can. But the goals imminent table is available there. So that's the players on there. We'll see how it goes. Good luck in Game Week 37 plus. We'll be back for all the normal content next week. And as Gianni said, it's match day on the Sunday for the final games. All being played at once. That's going to be one hell of a stream. Until then, we will see you later. Cheers all.